Hello, and thank you for choosing this heartfelt, modest historical romance by C.E.Mallery. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your support is appreciated and helps us continue bringing you more captivating tales, completely free. In each story are bits and pieces of true accounts of my personal life. So grab a pillow and make yourself at home and let your imagination transport you to a world of love, courage, and adventure in a time long past. Enjoy the story. Welcome to Laura's List. Copyright C.E.Mallery. Chapter 1. The Silent Witness. I'm frozen, standing in the front yard of the house of my childhood in the spring of 1889, Garden City, Nebraska. Once, this place was charming, full of comfort and laughter, a sanctuary of warmth where every creak of the floorboards held a memory of joy. Now, just 50 feet away, it somehow seems unreachable, a distant shore I can no longer cross. The house stands there, a silent witness bursting with stories just waiting to be told, its weathered clapboard siding and sagging roof a relic of what was. I am now the beneficiary of my family's legacy, though the weight of that inheritance feels more like a burden than a gift. The porch swing creaks in the gentle breeze, like a weary storyteller, groaning under the weight of secrets it has held for decades. The air is thick with the scent of blooming lilacs, a fragrance that tugs at the edges of my memory, pulling me back to simpler days when I'd sit on that very swing, my bare feet dangling as I listened to Mama's soft humming from the kitchen window. But those days are gone, buried beneath years of hardship and loss. The windows of the house stare down at me like hollow eyes, their glass clouded with dust and time. I can almost hear the echoes of Papa's booming laughter, the patter of my younger sister's feet racing through the hall, and the quiet rustle of Mama's apron as she moved from stove to sink. Yet, all I truly hear is the wind, whispering through the overgrown grass, as if urging me to step forward, to confront what I've avoided for so long. My name is Laura Henshaw, and I've come back to this place after nearly 6 years away, drawn by a letter from a solicitor informing me that the house, the land, and all its ghosts are now mine. I'm 27 years old, a spinster by the town's reckoning, though I've never much cared for their labels. My boots are caked with the dust of the long journey from Chicago, where I've built a modest life going to business school. I left Garden City after the fever took my little sister Faith, and Ma and Pa, just a couple of years ago, had a fatal buggy accident. I swore I'd never return. Yet here I am, standing on the edge of this forgotten yard, my heart a tangled knot of dread and longing. The house seems to watch me, its faded blue paint peeling like old skin, revealing the raw wood beneath. I remember the day Papa painted it, his shirt sleeves rolled up, sweat beading on his brow as he grinned down at me from the ladder. "A house needs to look alive, Laura," he'd said, "so it can hold all the life inside it." But there's no life here now, only shadows and silence. I take a tentative step forward, the grass brushing against my skirt, and notice the garden Mama once tended with such care. It's wild now, overrun with thistles and dandelions, though a single rosebush clings to life near the porch, its blooms a defiant splash of crimson against the gray decay. I clutch the solicitor's letter in my gloved hand, the paper worn thin from how often I've unfolded and read it. As I approach the porch, the swing creaks louder, swaying slightly as if touched by an unseen hand. My breath catches, and for a moment, I'm a child again, hiding behind Mama's skirts during a thunderstorm, convinced the house itself would protect me. But I'm not that girl anymore, and this house holds no safety, only questions. Why am I here? What do I do now? And why, after all these years, does Mama's voice still linger in my mind, urging me? I pause at the bottom of the porch steps, my hand trembling as I reach for the railing. The wood is splintered, rough beneath my glove, and I can't help but wonder if stepping inside will shatter the fragile wall I've built around my heart. Yet, I know I can't turn back. The house, this silent witness, demands my presence. Whatever lies within these walls, grief, answers, or something darker, I must face it. For my family, for myself, and for the stories that refuse to stay buried. Chapter 2. Echoes in the Hollow Rooms. The front door groans as I push it open, the sound a mournful echo in the stillness of the house. A wave of musty air greets me, carrying the faint scent of aged wood and forgotten dreams. I step inside, my boots clicking softly on the warped floorboards, and let my eyes adjust to the dim light filtering through the dusty windows. I'm walking through each room downstairs, remembering, as if the walls themselves are whispering the past to me. Every corner of this house holds a fragment of my childhood, a shard of joy or sorrow that cuts just as sharp now as it did then. I've come to face these ghosts, though my heart trembles with each step. I start in the parlor, where the fireplace stands like an old friend, its stone hearth blackened from years of crackling fires. I can almost see Papa there, poking at the logs with an iron rod, his face glowing in the firelight as he told stories of his boyhood on the plains, tales of stampeding buffalo and endless horizons. Faith and I would huddle under a quilt on the rug, our eyes wide, hanging on his every word, while Mama darned socks in the rocking chair, a soft smile on her lips. The fireplace is cold now, the grate filled with ash that hasn't been swept in years, and the silence feels heavier than any story ever told. Moving to the dining room, I pause at the long oak table where we all shared Ma's delicious meals after Sunday's church service. The surface is dull now, coated in a film of dust, but I can still picture the spread of her Sunday suppers: roast chicken glistening with butter, mashed potatoes steaming in a chipped blue bowl, and apple pie so sweet it made your teeth ache. We'd sit together, the four of us, laughing over Papa's terrible puns or Faith's endless questions about the world beyond Garden City. I run a gloved finger along the table's edge, tracing the nicks and scratches from years of use, and feel a pang in my chest for those nights when the world seemed small and safe, contained within these walls. The kitchen is next, where Mama reigned like a quiet queen, her hands always busy with a rolling pin or a ladle. I stand in the doorway, seeing her at the stove like it was yesterday, stirring a pot of stew, her apron dusted with flour as she hummed an old hymn under her breath. Faith and I would perch on stools at the counter, sneaking bits of dough or licking spoons, while Mama pretended not to notice. The sink is dry now, the pump handle rusted, and the shelves that once held jars of preserves are empty, save for a few cobwebs. I touch the edge of the counter, half expecting to feel the warmth of her presence, but there's only the cold, hard wood beneath my fingers. I'm lost in these memories, drifting through the downstairs rooms like a specter myself, when a sharp voice cuts through the silence, startling me from my reverie. "Hello? Is anyone there?" The call echoes through the house, accompanied by the creak of the front door swinging wider. My heart jumps and I turn toward the sound, wiping my dusty hands on my skirt as I step back into the parlor. "I'm here," I call out, my voice steadier than I feel. A figure appears in the doorway, a stout woman with graying hair pinned beneath a faded bonnet, her face lined with the kind of curiosity that only comes from living in a small town like Garden City. I recognize her at once, Ms. Mavis, the nosy neighbor who lived just down the lane, always poking her nose into everyone's business, but with a heart as big as the Nebraska sky. "Well, I'll be," she says, her eyes widening as she takes me in. "Laura Henshaw, is that you? My stars, it's been an age. I saw the horse and buggy tied up outside and thought I'd come see if someone needed help. Didn't expect to find you here of all folks." I manage a small smile, though my nerves are still rattled from the interruption. "Yes, Ms. Mavis, it's me. I've come back to settle things with the house. It's mine now, or so the solicitor says." She nods, stepping further into the parlor, her boots leaving faint tracks on the dusty floor. "I heard about your folks, and little Faith before that. Terrible losses, all of 'em. I'm glad to see you, though, even under such circumstances. You've been gone so long, I figured you'd never set foot in Garden City again." "I thought the same," I admit, my gaze drifting to the fireplace as if it might offer some comfort. "But here I am." Ms. Mavis clucks her tongue, her hands on her hips as she surveys the room. "This old place needs a heap of work, don't it? You can't do it all on your lonesome. I'm happy to lend a hand, scrubbing floors, airing out linens, whatever you need. And my son, Rudy, he's strong as an ox and handy with a hammer. He'd be glad to help, too, if you'll have him." Her kindness catches me off guard, a warmth I hadn't expected amidst the cold memories of this house. "Thank you, Ms. Mavis," I say, meeting her eyes. "I'm not sure yet what I'll need, but I appreciate the offer, truly." She waves a hand dismissively, though her smile is genuine. "Nonsense, child. We're neighbors, even if you've been away. You just holler if you need us. Now, I'll leave you to your business, but don't be a stranger. My door's always open." As she turns to go, her footsteps echoing on the porch, I feel a flicker of gratitude amidst the weight of my task. The house still looms around me, its rooms full of echoes and unanswered questions, but perhaps I'm not as alone as I thought. I watch Miss Mavis disappear down the lane, then turn back to the silent spaces of my childhood home, wondering what other interruptions or revelations await me within these walls. Chapter 3. The Time Capsule. I climb the narrow staircase to the second floor, each step creaking under my weight like a reluctant confession. The air grows heavier up here, thick with the scent of dust and time, as if the house has held its breath since I last walked these halls. My hand trails along the worn banister, fingers brushing over the nicks and scratches of a childhood spent racing up and down these stairs. I'm drawn to my old bedroom at the end of the hall, the door slightly ajar as if waiting for my return. Pushing it open, I step inside, and a wave of familiarity washes over me, sharp and bittersweet. Everything is still the same as when I left for school 6 years ago, a frozen moment in a life I thought I'd left behind. The quilt on the bed, patched and faded, is the one Mama made for me when I turned 12, each square a story of her patience and love. The small wooden desk by the window still holds a stack of yellowed papers, my old school books, and a chipped inkwell, as if I might sit down and resume a lesson at any moment. The curtains, once a bright yellow, are now dulled by time, hanging limp over the window that overlooks the overgrown yard. I move to the dresser, my breath catching as I spot a handkerchief tucked into the corner, hand-embroidered by Mama with delicate blue forget-me-nots. I lift it gently, the fabric soft and worn, and press it to my cheek, imagining I can still smell her lavender soap on the threads. Nearby, on the bedside table, a faded photograph catches my eye. It's the whole family. Papa with his broad shoulders and stern but kind eyes, Mama with her gentle smile, Faith with her infectious grin, and me, awkward and gangly at 14, standing slightly apart as if I already sensed the distance that would grow between us. Faith looks so happy in the image, her little hand clutching mine, her face alight with a joy that the fever would steal just a few years later. I trace her outline with a trembling finger, the ache in my chest swelling until it feels like it might burst. This house is a time capsule, its walls whispering echoes of laughter and tears, each room a vault of memories I'm not sure I'm strong enough to face. I turn to the mirror above the dresser, its glass speckled with age, and stare at my reflection. The face looking back isn't just the girl who left Garden City, full of naive hopes and quiet fears. It's also the woman I've become, hardened by years away, by loss, by the grind of a life in Chicago. I went to business school, yes, but what have I truly accomplished? I've learned to balance ledgers and type letters, but my dreams of making something of myself, of proving I could stand on my own, feel as distant as this house once did. The mirror reflects not only my past, but the uncertainty of my present, and I wonder if I've lost more than I've gained in the years I've been gone. As I stand there, lost in thought, my gaze falls on a small wooden box on the dresser, half hidden behind a tarnished hairbrush. My heart stutters. I'd forgotten all about it until now. I turn around and pick it up carefully, the wood smooth and cool beneath my fingers, its lid carved with a simple daisy pattern I once thought so elegant. I stare at it for a long time, my breath shallow, hesitant to open it. This box contains all my dreams and aspirations, a collection of hopes I scribbled down as a girl, full of certainty that the world would bend to my will. It's my dream list, a sacred thing I tucked away before leaving for school, a promise to myself that I'd make something of my life. With trembling hands, I finally lift the lid, the faint creak of the hinge sounding louder than it should in the silent room. Inside, a single folded piece of paper rests, its edges frayed from time. I unfold it slowly, revealing the list written in my youthful, looping handwriting. Numbers 1 through 4 are crossed off, small victories like learning to sew a proper hem, reading every book in the town library, learning to bake like Ma, and beating Rudy in a race. Number 5 stares back at me. Go to business school. I reach for the pen on my desk, its nib dry but still usable, and draw a slow, deliberate line through those words. I've done it, though the triumph feels hollow. My eyes linger on numbers 6 through 10, untouched by any mark, a litany of dreams yet unclaimed. Ride a train to nowhere, own a tapestry business, dance under the stars with the most handsome boy in town, visit a big, beautiful garden, and finally, fall in love. At the bottom of the page, I scribbled, "Make Ma and Pa proud." I stare at them, the weight of each unfulfilled hope pressing down on me like a physical thing. The girl who wrote this list believed in herself with a ferocity I can barely remember. Can I still be her? Or have the years dulled that fire, leaving only embers in their wake? I fold the paper and place it back in the box, closing the lid with a quiet resolve. These walls may hold my past, but they don't dictate my future. Whatever lies ahead, whether I chase these dreams or carve new ones, I know I can't turn away from this list, or from myself any longer. The house creaks around me as if in agreement, and I stand a little straighter, ready to face whatever comes next. Chapter 4. A Helping Hand. The next morning dawns with a pale, watery light filtering through the grimy windows, casting long shadows across the dusty floors of my childhood home. There's so much work to be done. An overwhelming tide of tasks that threatens to drown me before I've even begun. I start in the parlor, armed with a broom and a rag, sweeping away cobwebs that cling to every corner like ghostly lace. The air grows thick with dust as I work, each swipe of the cloth revealing more of the house's neglect, peeling wallpaper, warped wood, and the faint mildew of forgotten years. My mind wanders to the practicalities. I'll need to go to town for supplies soon, things like soap, nails, and maybe some paint to breathe life back into these walls. But beneath these mundane thoughts, a deeper current runs, pulling me back to numbers 6 through 10 on my dream list. Ride a train to nowhere, own a tapestry business, dance under the stars, visit a big, beautiful garden, and fall in love. They loop through my mind like a refrain, each unfulfilled hope a quiet ache as I scrub and sweep, wondering if I'll ever find the courage to chase them. I'm in the kitchen, wrestling with a particularly stubborn layer of grime on the counter, when a sharp knock at the front door startles me from my reverie. My hands are slick with soapy water, and I'm balancing one end of a kitchen cabinet that came loose from the wall just moments ago, threatening to topple over. "Come in!" I yell, my voice strained as I struggle to hold the heavy wood in place, my arms trembling under the weight. "Here, help me!" I call out, hoping whoever's there moves quickly. The door creaks open, and hurried footsteps echo through the house. A tall, broad-shouldered man rushes into the kitchen, his face familiar, yet changed by time. "I was just wiping it!" I exclaim as he reaches me, his strong hands grabbing the other end of the cabinet just in time to keep it from crashing down on me. I look up, catching my breath, and a grin spreads across my face despite the near disaster. "Well, if it isn't old Rudy Oliver from next door, 6 years did you good." Rudy laughs, a deep, warm sound that fills the kitchen as he steadies the cabinet against the wall. "Laura Henshaw, I'd recognize that voice anywhere. You haven't changed a bit, still getting yourself into trouble, I see." His eyes, a clear hazel, crinkle at the corners, and I notice how the boy I once knew has grown into a man, taller, sturdier, with a quiet confidence in the way he moves. His dark hair is tousled from the wind, and there's a faint scar above his left eyebrow I don't remember, a story I'm curious to hear. He sets to work fixing the cabinet, pulling a hammer and a few nails from the tool belt at his waist, while I turn to the stove to fix us some lunch. A simple meal of bread, cheese, and a jar of preserves I found in the pantry, miraculously unspoiled. As I slice the bread, the rhythmic tap of Rudy's hammer fills the silence, and we fall into an easy rhythm of reacquaintance, the years apart melting away with each shared memory. "Remember the time we raced to the creek, and you tripped over that root?" he teases, glancing over with a smirk. "I thought you'd never stop crying." I roll my eyes, spreading preserves on a slice of bread. "And I thought you'd never stop laughing. But I beat you in the end, didn't I? That's what counts." We chuckle, the sound a small balm against the weight of the house around us, and I feel a flicker of gratitude for this unexpected company. As we sit at the kitchen table, sharing the modest meal, the conversation turns to the present. "Ma said you might need some help around here," Rudy says, taking a bite of bread. "I've got time, and I'm handy with most things, fixing cabinets, patching roofs, whatever you've got. And if you're heading to town for supplies, I can drive you. Got a wagon out front, and I'm going that way tomorrow anyway." I nod, sipping water from a chipped tin cup, my mind already tallying the things I need. "I'd appreciate that, Rudy. I've got a list. Soap, nails, some linseed oil for the wood, maybe a few other odds and ends. This place is falling apart faster than I can keep up, and I wouldn't mind the company on the ride to town. It's been a while since I've seen Garden City proper." He leans back in his chair, wiping his hands on a napkin. "It's settled then. I'll swing by in the morning and we'll get what you need. And if there's anything else, heavy lifting, clearing out the barn, you name it, just say the word. Mad have my hide if I didn't help out a neighbor, especially one I've known since we were knee-high." I smile, a genuine warmth spreading through me at his kindness. "Thank you, Rudy. It means more than you know." As we finish lunch, clearing the plates together, my thoughts drift back to that list tucked away in the box upstairs. Numbers 6 through 10 linger in my mind, whispers of dreams I've yet to claim. Chapter 5. A Day in Town. The next morning breaks with a crisp clarity, the sky a wide expanse of pale blue over Garden City as Rudy pulls up in his wagon, the horse snorting softly in the cool air. I climb up beside him, my skirt rustling as I settle onto the wooden seat, a small list of needed supplies tucked into my pocket. The road to town stretches ahead, a familiar path of packed earth and scattered gravel, flanked by fields of swaying grass and the occasional weathered fence. As the wagon jostles along, Rudy's voice cuts through the rhythmic creak of the wheels, carrying a weight of quiet reflection. "Pa passed a couple of years back," he says, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "Left me the general store. It's been a lot to manage, but I've got a boy, young Timmy, who helps out on the days I'm not there. Keeps things running smooth enough." I turn to him, noting the faint lines of responsibility etched into his face, a man shaped by loss and duty. "I'm sorry to hear about your pa, Rudy," I say softly. "I remember him behind the counter, always sneaking me a peppermint when Ma wasn't looking. He was a good man." Rudy nods, a small smile tugging at his lips. "He was. And he'd be glad to know you're back, Laura. Speaking of the store, you can pick up whatever you need there today. I'll give you a great discount, practically for nothing. It's the least I can do for an old friend." I'm surprised by the generosity, my brows lifting as I shake my head. "That's kind of you, Rudy, truly, but I don't want anything for free. I'll pay what's fair. I've got some savings from Chicago and I'd rather keep things square between us." He starts to protest, but I hold up a hand with a gentle smile. "I appreciate it, though, more than you know." We lapse into a comfortable silence as the wagon rolls into town, the familiar outline of Garden City coming into view, wooden storefronts with peeling paint, the blacksmith's hammer ringing in the distance, and the chatter of folks going about their morning. Rudy ties the horse outside Oliver's General Store, a modest building with a wide porch and a sign that still bears his father's name in faded black letters. Inside, the air smells of sawdust and molasses, shelves lined with everything from canned goods to bolts of fabric. Young Timmy, a lanky boy of about 14 with a mop of red hair, waves from behind the counter, and I return the gesture as I begin to wander the aisles. My fingers trail over jars of preserves and stacks of tinware, my mind drifting to the house and all the ways I could breathe life back into its weary bones. I dream of decorating the parlor with fresh curtains, of painting the kitchen a soft yellow to match Mama's old tastes. My eye catches on a display of tapestries near the back, intricate patterns of flowers and vines woven into rich fabrics that shimmer in the dim light. I pause, my heart tugging as I remember number 7 on my list: own a tapestry business. These pieces are beautiful, the kind of work I've always admired, and for a moment, I imagine creating something like them, my hands weaving dreams into thread. But I shake the thought away, practicality anchoring me. I can't afford daydreams just yet. Instead, I pick up a small box of nails and a can of white paint, deciding that's enough for now. I carry them to the counter where Rudy waits, leaning casually against a barrel of flour. "Just these," I say, setting them down. "It'll do to start with. And thank you, Rudy, for being so kind. I mean it." He waves off my thanks with a grin, tallying up the cost and insisting on a small discount despite my earlier protest. "It's nothing, Laura. Just glad to help." We settle the bill, and with the supplies tucked under my arm, we step back into the sunlight, deciding to make a day of it in town. There's a lightness in the air as we stroll down Main Street, taking in the sights: the milliner's shop with its colorful hats in the window, the livery stable where old men swap stories over cups of coffee, and the church steeple piercing the sky, a reminder of Sundays long past. We stop to chat with familiar faces, townsfolk who remember me from childhood and offer warm, if curious, smiles. Mrs. Carter, the baker's wife, presses a still warm biscuit into my hand, her eyes crinkling as she asks after my time in Chicago. Mr. Hargrove, the blacksmith, claps Rudy on the shoulder and teases me about outrunning him as a girl. Each encounter weaves a thread of connection, pulling me back into the fabric of Garden City, a place I thought I'd left behind for good. Rudy and I laugh over shared memories, our steps easy as we wander past the schoolhouse and the creek where we once played, the day stretching into a quiet reacquaintance with both the town and each other. By the time we load the wagon for the ride back, the sun is dipping low, casting golden streaks across the fields. I settle beside Rudy again, the nails and paint at my feet, feeling a flicker of something like hope. The house waits for me, full of dust and echoes. But today has reminded me that I'm not entirely alone in facing it. And somewhere, tucked away in that box upstairs, numbers 6 through 10 on my list whisper their possibilities, a quiet promise I'm not ready to ignore. Chapter 6. A Train to Nowhere. The days following our trip to town blur into a rhythm of hard work and quiet companionship as Rudy continues helping me with everything around the house. From dawn until dusk, we toil side by side, scrubbing floors until they gleam faintly beneath the dust of years, hammering loose boards back into place, and painting walls with the white paint we bought from his store. The old house groans under our efforts as if reluctant to shed its neglect, but slowly it begins to feel less like a tomb and more like a home again. Between the tasks we talk, long, winding conversations that stitch together the years we've spent apart. I learn about the challenges of running the general store after his pa's passing, and he listens as I share snippets of my life in Chicago, the loneliness of business school, and the ache of being far from Garden City. Each day I find myself thanking him, my voice soft with gratitude. "Rudy, you don't have to do all of this. Helping me like this, it's more than I could ask." He always waves off my words with a tired smile, wiping sweat from his brow with the back of his hand. "Nonsense, Laura. What are neighbors for if not this? Besides, I'd rather be here fixing things with you than anywhere else." His kindness is a steady anchor, but I can see the exhaustion in his eyes, mirroring my own. We've both worked so hard, pushing ourselves to the brink, our muscles aching and our hands roughened by labor. The house is coming along, but we're wearing thin, the weight of endless tasks pressing down on us like a heavy fog. One late afternoon, as we sit on the porch steps sharing a jar of water, the sun dipping low and painting the yard in shades of amber, Rudy sets down his hammer with a sigh. "Let's do something," he says suddenly, his voice cutting through the quiet hum of crickets starting their evening song. I glance at him, wiping a stray lock of hair from my face, my hands still dusted with paint. "Like what?" I ask, curious but too weary to imagine anything beyond collapsing into bed. He shrugs, a boyish grin tugging at his lips despite the fatigue etched into his features. "I don't know. The train. Let's ride the train. I blink at him, caught off guard by the suggestion. The train? And where do you suppose we go? My tone is half amused, half skeptical, picturing the little depot on the edge of Garden City, its tracks stretching out to places I've only dreamed of. Rudy leans back on his hands, staring out at the horizon as if he can see beyond it. I don't know. To nowhere, he says simply, as if it's the most natural thing in the world. I stare at him, my world suddenly stopping, the air around me growing still as his words echo in my mind. What did you say? I whisper, my voice barely audible, my heart thudding against my ribs. He turns to me, oblivious to the storm his words have stirred within me. Let's ride a train to nowhere. Just get on, see where it takes us for a day. No plan, no destination. Who just goes on a train and rides it to nowhere? He chuckles, shaking his head at the absurdity of it. But I'm frozen, my breath caught in my throat. And then I remember. Number 6 on my list, scrawled in my youthful handwriting, tucked away in that box upstairs, ride a train to nowhere. It was a dream born of childish whimsy, a longing for adventure without the weight of purpose, a desire to simply be without knowing where I'd end up. I'd written it down as a girl, full of hope and wonder, never imagining it could come true. Yet here is Rudy, sitting beside me, unknowingly echoing the very words that have haunted my thoughts since I rediscovered that list. I swallow hard, my hands trembling slightly as I set the jar of water down on the step. Rudy, I start, my voice unsteady. That's something I've always wanted to do. I wrote it down once, a long time ago, as something I dreamed of, riding a train to nowhere. His eyes widen, a spark of surprise and delight flickering in them. Is that so? Well then, it's settled. Tomorrow we'll head to the depot, buy 2 tickets to the next train out, and just ride. No worries about the house, no chores, just a day for us to breathe. What do you say, Laura? I look at him, the exhaustion of the past days melting under the warmth of this unexpected chance, this small, reckless dream coming within reach. A slow smile spreads across my face, tentative at first, then brighter. I say yes, let's do it. Let's ride a train to nowhere. As the sun sinks lower, casting long shadows across the yard, I feel a flicker of something I haven't felt in years. Anticipation, pure and unburdened. The house can wait one more day. Tomorrow I'll step toward one of the dreams on my list with Rudy by my side, and for the first time in a long while, the weight of the past feels just a little lighter. Chapter 7. Tracks to Nowhere. The morning air at the Garden City Depot carries the sharp tang of coal smoke and the restless energy of departure as Rudy and I board the train, our tickets clutched like keys to an unknown adventure. The platform buzzes with passengers, each with their own destinations etched in hurried steps and purposeful glances. Farmers heading to market, families bound for distant relatives, businessmen with leather satchels and furrowed brows. All of them have somewhere to be, somewhere that matters, all but us. Rudy and I are the outliers, stepping onto the train with no plan, no endpoint, just the whimsical notion of riding to nowhere, a dream plucked straight from my list and made real by this shared impulse. We find our seats in a worn but cozy compartment, the wooden benches upholstered in faded green fabric, the window smudged but offering a clear enough view of the world we're about to leave behind. I settle in by the window, my skirt smoothed over my knees, while Rudy sits beside me, his broad frame filling the space with a quiet steadiness. The train lurches forward with a groan of metal and steam, and I feel a thrill ripple through me, a childlike excitement at the sheer unknown of it all. As we adjust to the rhythm of the tracks, I reach into my pocket for Mama's embroidered handkerchief, the one with the delicate forget-me-nots, needing something familiar to anchor me in this unfamiliar moment. But my fingers fumble, and the delicate cloth slips from my grasp, fluttering to the floor between us. We both reach for it at the same time, our hands brushing against each other in the narrow space. The contact is brief, a fleeting warmth, but it's enough to stop the world around us. I freeze, my breath catching as I look up and meet Rudy's eyes. His gaze holds mine, steady and searching, a quiet intensity that makes my heart stutter. The clatter of the train, the murmur of other passengers, the passing landscape. All of it fades into a distant hum. My cheeks flush with heat, a blush I can't hide, and I manage a soft, "Thank you," as he hands me the handkerchief, his fingers lingering just a moment longer than necessary before pulling away. He smiles, a slow, gentle curve of his lips that eases the tension, though my pulse still races. "Any time, Laura," he says, his voice low, almost lost in the rumble of the train. I tuck the handkerchief back into my pocket, my hands trembling slightly, and turn my gaze to the window, needing a moment to steady myself. But the memory of that touch, the way his eyes held mine, lingers like a quiet echo. As the train carries us onward, rolling through endless fields of golden wheat and past small sleepy towns, we fall into an easy rhythm of conversation, talking about life in a way we haven't before. Rudy shares stories of the store, the quirky customers who barter with eggs or tall tales, and the quiet pride he feels in keeping his pa's legacy alive. I open up about Chicago, the cold loneliness of boarding houses, and the way I've always felt caught between the girl I was here and the woman I'm trying to become. We laugh over small things, his terrible attempts at baking bread, my habit of losing myself in books until dawn, and the hours slip by unnoticed, the train's steady clack-clack a backdrop to a happiness I hadn't expected to find. Through the window, the world unfolds in fleeting vignettes. A farmer waving from a distant field, a river glinting like a silver ribbon under the midday sun, a cluster of children chasing each other near a rickety fence. We take in all the sights, pointing out little details to each other, a hawk circling overhead, a barn painted a startling shade of red, and I feel a lightness I haven't known in years. There's no weight of the house here, no dust of the past to sweep away, just the simple joy of being with Rudy, of riding to nowhere with no expectations beyond this moment. As the afternoon stretches on, the train slows at nameless stops before chugging forward again, and I realize I couldn't be happier. Chapter 8. A Home and a Heart. The next morning dawns with a soft golden light spilling through the newly cleaned windows of the old house, illuminating the progress of the past days. There are still a few more things that need fixing: creaky hinges on the back door, a loose step on the porch, and the pantry shelves that wobble precariously. But the place is starting to feel less like a relic and more like a real home again. I didn't get any sleep last night, my mind restless and tangled with thoughts of the moment Rudy and I shared on the train. The brush of our hands, the way his eyes held mine as if the world had paused just for us. It replays over and over, a quiet ache that keeps me tossing beneath the patched quilt until the first hints of dawn. I rise early, determined to keep my hands busy if my mind won't settle, and set to work with items I picked up from the general store during our trip to town. Among them is one of those beautiful tapestries I couldn't resist, its intricate weave of flowers and vines a burst of color against the faded parlor wall. I paid full price for it, despite Rudy's insistence on a discount, standing firm at the counter with a quiet resolve. "It's worth every penny, Rudy," I'd told him, and I meant it. Hanging it now, I step back to admire how it transforms the room, a small piece of a dream, number 7 on my list, own a tapestry business, taking root in this tangible beauty. The house breathes easier with each touch of care, the dust of neglect giving way to warmth, and I can almost hear Mama's approving hum as I sweep the last of the cobwebs from the corners. By evening, as the sun dips low and casts long shadows across the yard, Rudy comes over to help with repairing the pantry shelves, his tool belt slung over his shoulder and a familiar grin on his face. We work side by side, passing nails and measuring boards, the rhythm of our efforts a quiet comfort. But beneath the task, my thoughts churn, and I can't hold back the question that's been nagging at me for days. As he hammers a shelf into place, I pause, wiping my hands on my apron, and turn to him. "Rudy, why are you doing all of this for me?" My voice is softer than I intend, laced with a vulnerability I can't hide. "You don't do this for all the other women in Garden City. Why me?" He stops mid-swing, the hammer hovering in the air, and turns to face me fully. His hazel eyes are steady, searching mine with an intensity that makes my breath catch. "Laura," he says, his voice low and earnest, "it's because it's you. It's always been you. I've watched you grow up, seen the way you carry your family's weight, the way you fought to make something of yourself even when it's hard. I admire that. I admire you. And somewhere along the way, helping you stopped being just a neighborly thing. It became something more. His words hit me like a warm breeze, unexpected and disarming, and I stand there rooted to the spot, my heart thudding in my chest. I open my mouth to respond, but no words come, only a rush of feeling I'm not sure how to name. Rudy sets the hammer down, stepping closer, and continues before I can find my voice. There's a town fair coming up next week, Laura. I'd like you to go with me. Not as the neighbor next door, but as my date, if you'll have me. The invitation hangs between us, a fragile, hopeful thing, and I feel the world tilt just slightly, the way it did on the train. A town fair, music, laughter, the glow of lanterns under a starlit sky. It whispers of number 8 on my list, dance under the stars with the most handsome boy in town, a dream I'd tucked away as childish fancy. And here's Rudy, standing before me asking for more than just a day of shared labor, his sincerity plain in every line of his face. I swallow hard, a shy smile tugging at my lips as warmth spreads through me. I'd like that, Rudy. I'd like that very much. He grins, a brightness in his eyes that mirrors the fading sunlight outside, and we return to the pantry shelves with a new, unspoken understanding between us. The house creaks softly around us, as if in approval, its walls no longer just a repository of past sorrows, but a witness to something new beginning. As we work into the evening, I can't help but think of that list upstairs, of dreams inching closer to reality, and of the fair ahead, a night that might just hold a dance under the stars. Chapter 9, A Night Under the Stars. Next week couldn't come soon enough for Rudy and me, each day dragging with an eager anticipation that made even the simplest tasks feel endless. But the day of the town fair finally arrives, dawning with a restless sky, gray clouds looming on the horizon with the threat of bad weather. Despite the uncertain forecast, Garden City buzzes with excitement, the air alive with the chatter of folks preparing for the festivities. The town square transforms into a vibrant hub of color and sound, with banners strung between lampposts and tables laden with goods. Ladies bustle about, bringing out pies and pastries they've spent days perfecting, golden-crusted apple pies, flaky turnovers dusted with sugar, and delicate cookies arranged in neat rows. Men set up games for the children, their laughter mingling with the clatter of wooden pins and the jingle of prize bells, while others organize a tug-of-war, rolling up their sleeves with good-natured bravado. The fair promises games, prizes, and a whole lot of food, a celebration of community that not even the threat of rain can dampen. Rudy arrives at the house just past noon, his wagon polished and his smile brighter than the patchy sunlight filtering through the clouds. I've dressed in my best, a simple but elegant blue frock with a touch of lace at the collar, my hair pinned up with a ribbon Mama once wore. As we walk into town together, joining the throng of fairgoers, a giddy warmth settles in my chest. The day unfolds like a dream, full of laughter and shared delights. Rudy shows off at the games with a boyish enthusiasm, tossing rings with precision to win me a stuffed bear, knocking down bottles to claim a brightly painted tin whistle, and even outlasting the other men in a hammer swing contest to earn a small carved wooden bird. Each prize he hands me feels like a treasure, his grin wide and proud as I clutch them close, my heart swelling with every victory. We wander through the fair, sampling the bounty of food, sharing candied apples that stick to our fingers with sweet, tart glaze, savoring bites of warm cornbread slathered with butter, and sipping lemonade so cold it makes my teeth ache. The air smells of caramel and smoked meat, and everywhere there's the sound of fiddles tuning up, children shrieking with joy, and neighbors calling out greetings. Rudy and I lose ourselves in the merriment, pausing to watch the tug-of-war where burly farmers strain against the rope, their faces red with effort, and cheering for the little ones racing in sack races, their clumsy hops drawing peals of laughter from the crowd. The threatened rain holds off, the clouds parting just enough to let slivers of sunlight dance across the square, as if the sky itself is reluctant to spoil the day. As evening falls, The fair takes on a softer glow, lanterns hung from poles casting golden pools of light over the gathering. The stars emerge, shining bright against the deepening indigo of the sky, a breathtaking canopy that feels like it was made just for us. The fiddlers strike up a lively tune, then slow into a gentle waltz, and couples begin to pair off for the dance in the center of the square, their steps kicking up small clouds of dust. Rudy turns to me, his hand extended, his eyes warm and earnest in the lantern light. "May I have this dance, Laura?" he asks, his voice a quiet promise. I look at him, my breath catching as a realization washes over me, clear and piercing. "Where have you been all my life?" I murmur, the words slipping out before I can stop them, raw with the weight of every moment that's led us here. He steps closer, his hand still waiting for mine, and his answer is simple, yet it steals the air from my lungs. "Waiting," he says softly, a confession that holds years of unspoken longing. I place my hand in his, feeling the calloused warmth of his palm, and we step into the dance. The music wraps around us, a tender melody that guides our movements, my skirt swaying as we turn beneath the stars. I rest my head against his shoulder, the world narrowing to the steady beat of his heart and the gentle rhythm of our steps. Around us, the fair continues, laughter, clinking glasses, the distant cheer of a game winner, but it all fades into a distant hum. This moment, this night of beauty and beautiful moments, is ours alone. I think of number 8 on my list, dance under the stars with the most handsome boy in town, and know that it's come true in a way I never imagined, with Rudy, who has been waiting for me just as I've been searching for him. As the song ends, and we linger in the quiet space between melodies, I lift my head to meet his gaze, the stars reflecting in his eyes. The night stretches before us, full of promise, and I feel for the first time in a long while that I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. Chapter 10. Love Just a Door Away. The next evening, as the sun dips below the horizon and bathes Garden City in a warm amber glow, Rudy stops by after closing up the general store, his familiar grin lighting up the porch as he knocks on my door. I've been expecting him, hoping to share one of my home-cooked meals, roast chicken with rosemary, mashed potatoes, and a pie I baked with apples from the old tree out back. But I also know he's here to help, as he always is, and tonight we've set our sights on fixing the creaky old porch swing, a weary storyteller that's groaned under the weight of memories for far too long. We laugh and chat as we work, passing tools and testing the chains, the air between us easy after the magic of the fair the night before. I can still feel the echo of our dance under the stars, a moment that lingers like a sweet melody in my mind. We're tightening the last bolt on the swing when, without warning, the rotted wood of the porch beneath Rudy gives way with a sickening crack. He falls through, a sharp cry escaping him as he lands hard on the ground below, tangled in splintered boards. My heart stops, panic seizing me as I drop to my knees, peering through the jagged hole. "Rudy, are you all right?" I call, my voice trembling. He groans, clutching his leg, his face pale and twisted with pain. He's hurt, pretty bad from the look of it, and I don't hesitate. With a strength I didn't know I had, I scramble down to him, hooking my arms under his shoulders and dragging him out from under the debris. I have no idea how I manage it. His weight is heavy, my hands shaking. But I do, pulling him up the steps and into the house, laying him on the parlor couch as gently as I can. Sweat beads on his forehead, and his breathing is ragged, but he tries to muster a weak smile. "I'm fine, Laura. Just a tumble," he mutters, though the grimace on his face tells me otherwise. I shake my head, my hands hovering over him, unsure where to touch without causing more pain. "I'm going to tell your mother to fetch the doctor. I'll be right back," I say firmly, my voice steadier than I feel. I grab my shawl, race to the stable, and saddle my horse in a blur of motion, the urgency pounding in my chest. The ride to Ms. Mavis's house down the lane feels endless, though it's only minutes, and I bang on her door, breathless, explaining in a rush what's happened. Her eyes widen with worry, but she nods, promising to get the doctor at once. "Go back to him, Laura. I'll handle this," she assures me, and I don't wait to hear more, spurring my horse back to the house. When I burst through the door, Rudy is still on the couch, his face pale but his eyes open, watching me with a quiet intensity. I kneel beside him, grabbing a quilt to prop under his head and a damp cloth to wipe the dirt and sweat from his brow, doing what I can to make him comfortable. My hands tremble as I work, and a wave of emotion crashes over me, raw and undeniable. I realize in this frantic, tender moment how much he means to me, how much I've come to rely on his steady presence, his laughter, his kindness. And as I look into his eyes, I see it reflected back, a depth of feeling that tells me I mean just as much to him. We've fallen in love, somewhere between the dusty repairs and the starlit dance, without fully realizing how deeply we've woven ourselves into each other's lives. "I don't want to lose you," I whisper, the words spilling out before I can stop them, my voice breaking with the weight of the fear that gripped me when I saw him fall. My hand finds his, squeezing gently, and he squeezes back, his grip weak but sure. "You won't," he murmurs, his voice rough with pain but laced with conviction. "I'm not going anywhere, Laura. Not now, not ever." Time seems to slow as we wait, my heart a steady drumbeat of worry and newfound clarity, until the door opens and Ms. Mavis ushers in Doc Hargrove, his black bag in hand and his face set with professional calm. He examines Rudy, cleaning and bandaging a pretty ugly gash on his leg, noting the major bumps and bruises that pepper his frame. "No more dancing for you for a while, young man," Doc jokes with a wry smile, adjusting a sling around Rudy's arm. "Take it easy for a spell, rest, ice, and let this lady here fuss over you. You'll mend, but it'll take time." I nod, relief washing over me as the doctor packs up, leaving instructions and a small vial of pain tonic. Ms. Mavis lingers a moment, patting my shoulder with a knowing look before heading home, promising to check in tomorrow. As the house quiets, I sit beside Rudy on the couch, the flickering lamplight casting soft shadows across his bruised but still handsome face. He reaches for my hand again, and I let him take it, the warmth of his touch grounding me. In the stillness, I think of number 10 on my list, fall in love. And know it's crossed off, not with a pen but with the quiet certainty in my heart. I've spent so long searching, thinking love was a distant dream, something I'd have to chase beyond Garden City's borders. But sitting here, with Rudy's hand in mine, I realize I didn't have to go anywhere. Love was just a door away, waiting in the form of the man who's been by my side through every creak and repair, every laugh and shared dream. The old house hums around us, a witness to this moment. And I know, bruised or not, we'll face whatever comes next together. Chapter 11. The Last Checkmark. The morning light spilled through the cracked window of Laura's old house, casting a golden haze over the worn wooden floors. She sat at the kitchen table, her list in hand, the edges frayed from years of folding and unfolding. Each item on that list had once felt like a mountain, impossible, daunting, a reminder of all she'd lost when her parents passed. But now, as she traced her finger over the ink, she saw not just tasks, but a map of her own becoming. She'd scratched off most of them, one by one, with sweat and tears and a stubbornness she hadn't known she possessed. Only one remained, and today she felt the weight of possibility more than burden. Rudy was outside, hammering away at the last of the porch repairs. The sound of his steady work had become a rhythm to her days, a heartbeat she'd grown to rely on. Months ago, when he'd first shown up, she'd seen nothing but a stranger with sad eyes. But time had a way of weaving people together, thread by thread, until the fabric of their lives was inseparable. He'd gotten better with a quiet determination. The shadows under his eyes had lifted, replaced by a spark that flared brightest when he looked at her. And the house, her house, had transformed too. The leaky roof was patched, the walls repainted, the garden blooming with wildflowers she'd planted on a whim. With all the work they did together, it was no longer just a shell of memories. It was a place to live, to love. Laura set the list down and stepped outside, the summer air warm against her skin. Rudy glanced up from his work, wiping sweat from his brow with the back of his hand. "Almost done here," he said, his voice rough but tender. "Thought we'd celebrate tonight. Maybe I can come back for a nice dinner." She smiled, leaning against the porch railing. "Sounds perfect. But first I've got something to show you." She led him inside to the small room she'd turned into her studio, where her tapestries hung like stories woven in thread. Vibrant blues and golds, scenes of rolling hills and starry nights, each one a piece of her soul. Rudy's eyes softened as he studied the work. "They're beautiful, Laura. Just like you." He came back that evening for dinner. He hesitated, then reached into his pocket, pulling out a small, worn box. Her breath caught as he dropped to one knee. "I've been carrying this for weeks, waiting for the right moment. I don't know if there's ever a perfect time, but I know I can't imagine my life without you. Laura, will you marry me?" Tears blurred her vision as she nodded. "Oh, Rudy," words failing her. The ring was simple, a thin band of silver with a tiny stone that caught the light, but it felt like the weight of 1,000 promises. She slipped it on, and Rudy pulled her into his arms. In that moment, the world was just the two of them, and the house around them seemed to hum with approval. The wedding came faster than either of them expected, planned with a joyful urgency. They chose the biggest garden in the area, a sprawling estate just outside town that belonged to a kind widow who'd insisted they use it. On the day, the garden was a riot of color, roses and lilies in full bloom, their fragrance mingling with the crisp autumn air. Laura wore a dress of soft ivory, stitched with delicate embroidery she'd done herself, a nod to her mother's love of needlework. Rudy stood waiting under an arch of ivy, his suit fitting just right with a big smile wide enough to light the whole town. Friends and neighbors filled the space, their laughter and chatter a warm backdrop to the vows. Laura felt her parents' presence in the breeze, in the way the sunlight dappled the grass, as if they were there, watching, proud. When Rudy slipped the ring onto her finger, again, this time with the weight of forever, she knew she'd found not just a husband, but a home. The reception spilled into the evening with music and dancing under strings of lanterns, and Laura couldn't stop smiling, her heart so full it ached. After the wedding, life settled into a rhythm of quiet victories. The general store which they owned together became their shared dream. Laura's tapestries lined the walls, selling faster than she could weave them, each one a testament to her resilience. Rudy managed the books and the stock, his steady hand balancing her creative chaos. They worked side by side, building not just a business, but a legacy. As the sun dipped below the horizon one evening, Laura sat on the porch of their fixed-up house, her list in hand. She held a pencil, hovering over the last item, "Fall in love." With a trembling hand, she drew a line through it, the scratch of graphite a final, triumphant note. She leaned back, Rudy beside her, his arm around her shoulders. "How is all of this possible?" she whispered, more to herself than to him. "Fate, maybe. Or the list. It saved me. It brought me back to myself." Rudy kissed her temple. "Your mother knew what she was doing. She called you home, and I bet both your parents are prouder than ever." Laura nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. But they were the good kind, the kind that came from a heart too full to hold it all. She folded the old list and tucked it away, then pulled out a fresh sheet of paper. "Let's start a new one," she said, her voice steady now. "Our list. Together." Rudy grinned, taking the pencil from her. "First item, grow old in this house, with you." As the last light of day faded, Laura rested her head on his shoulder, the future stretching out before them like an unwritten story. Whatever came next, they'd face it side by side, checking off dreams one by one until the end of their days. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on more captivating tales. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and God bless. See you in the next video.